Hello, everybody. Welcome to the University of Pittsburgh. Many thanks to the governor, and I'm very happy to have also been able to host Secretary Bogan, Secretary Rick Seiger, Representative Mullins, Representative Powell, and Representative Frankel on a really nice tour that you'll hear about. I want to express some extra appreciation to the governor for his strong support of science and research and all of the wonderful things that come from that in treatments and cures, innovations, and economic development, and what that means for us here at the University of Pittsburgh. We've had a lot of really good visits recently. It's a big part of our strategy to make sure that we're strong contributors to the Commonwealth on behalf of our students, our faculty and staff, and the communities that we serve. In October, the governor joined a group of leaders from around the country and 20 different countries for a historic 3-day gathering called Forging the Future at the intersection of health, AI, and technology, where we together explored how emerging technologies like AI are driving dramatic advances in biomedical sciences and really reshaping healthcare, our competitiveness, and the global innovation economy. And for this afternoon's visit, we were very proud to share with the governor and all of our special guests the life-changing innovation that's happening right here in the Biomedical Science Tower, as well as express our sincere appreciation to all of our government officials and the General Assembly as a whole for their investment to support life sciences here at Pitt and at all of the research institutions that give us the opportunity to fight the good fight against really difficult neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, ALS, and Parkinson's. It's with this really strong bipartisan support in Harrisburg, along with the work we're doing together to retain the best and brightest researchers and innovators and attract the best students who are the future in this space, that allows us to make these really important investments and allows us as an institution to be amongst the top 20 most innovative universities in the nation when you look at research, startups, and patents. It also allows us to make a nearly $7 billion economic impact on this community, and for that we are very honored and humble and grateful. So in that spirit, it is my pleasure now to turn it over to someone who is not only the 48th governor of Pennsylvania, but also our favorite Pitt dad. So with that, Governor, very nice to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. The Chancellor outed me. I am a proud Pitt dad, and so it is always good to be here on campus. And I remarked to the Chancellor on the way in, you know, as a Pitt dad, your perspective is oftentimes framed around your undergraduate child's education. For us, our daughter graduated a couple years ago. Our son's a junior now. And you can sometimes forget that there is so much incredible research and development that is happening at this university. You get a myopic perspective as a parent. And so it's wonderful for me to be here today as the governor to be able to not just see but highlight the incredible research that's going on here at the University of Pittsburgh and our work to help complement that work in a very, very important area. I want to just take a moment to acknowledge some really important folks who are here today. 2 members of my administration, Dr. Deb Bogan, a Pittsburgher who is also our health secretary. I'm grateful to have Secretary Rick Seiger, the head of the Department of Community and Economic Development, also a Yinzer, who is with us. And I think it is important to note that we have both the healthcare side and the economic development side here because we understand how they are linked together. The powerful work that is happening with your researchers will not only save lives, it will create jobs and economic opportunity here in the Pittsburgh area and all across our great Commonwealth. We're also really privileged to have some wonderful members of our General Assembly who are here, including your local representative and a dear friend of many years, Representative Dan Frankel. We appreciate you. We appreciate Representative Lindsay Powell for your terrific work. And I would note the presence of a guy from northeastern Pennsylvania, and I'm not talking about Kevin Washoe, your outstanding Vice Chancellor, but Representative Kyle Mullins, who is here with us today. He's not only a terrific, terrific member of the General Assembly. Kyle lost his father to ALS, and Kyle wanted to do something about that and worked incredibly hard with his colleagues on both sides of the aisle, in both chambers, and with my office to bring us to this day where we could invest in the life-saving research that is occurring right here at the University of Pittsburgh. Kyle Mullins took the pain of the loss in his family and put that into energy that is going to ultimately save other families from experiencing that type of grief and loss. And so for us to be able to be here today is very special for me to be here with Kyle. It's also very special, I think, for all of you to get the chance to meet him and know that he was your legislative champion to get this across the finish line. We had the opportunity to be with Dr. Chris Connolly earlier on the tour. I was remarking to him that he was able to speak English and translate all of the incredible work you're doing that allowed lawmakers in the governor's office to actually turn this into real progress. And the progress I'm speaking of course, is now a $5 million line item in our state budget, which I'm going to fight to increase and continue on year after year after year, to go directly to the kind of research that is happening here at the University of Pittsburgh and other outstanding institutions across Pennsylvania. Neurodegenerative diseases claim far too many lives and impact too many families. And we need to do more research, we need to trust science, and we need to invest in science in order to make sure that other families don't have to deal with the kind of loss that the Mullins family had to deal with. I want you to know that here in Pennsylvania, we believe in science, and we believe in investing in the extraordinary work that you are doing. And even in the face of federal cuts, we're going to do everything in our power to ensure that the kind of work that goes on here is sustained for many years to come. I just want to share on a personal note that in my first week as a state representative back in 2005, a man who was my age at the time, I was 30 years old at the time, with two children, I had two at the time, who were exactly the ages of our two kids, our Sophia and our Jonah, asked to meet with me in my office in Abington, Pennsylvania, in Montgomery County. And he walked in and he had a cane. And I thought it was curious that a guy who looked healthy, my age, was walking with a cane. And he introduced himself as Wes Rose, a professor at Arcadia University in Montgomery County. Wes sat down across the desk from me and told me he had just been diagnosed with ALS. And he wanted me as his representative to do something about it. I worked with colleagues in the legislature, including Representative Cutler, who I know you partnered with in this, to do a little something for families who were dealing with ALS. And I stayed in touch with Wes. We talked regularly throughout the 10 years more that he lived his life. We watched our kids grow up together. I watched Wes walk not with a cane, but then get around with a wheelchair, and then ultimately with the assistance of many others. I share that story with you because Wes is no longer with us here on earth, but Wes is with me in my heart, and Wes is part of what drives me to do this work with people like Representative Mullins to ensure that neurodegenerative diseases are addressed in our state government. With our new Alzheimer's office that we started about a year ago, thanks to the work of these lawmakers and others, and now with this extraordinary work that Representative Mullins did to secure this funding, to make sure the research goes forward, and that we're able to not have Mullins families and the Rose families and others have to deal with the pain of a loved one dealing with neurodegenerative disease. So I want you to know this is personal for me, as I know it is for many. And this is an important step in the process, but by no means are we finished in our work. We've got a lot more work to do. And our job is to make sure that outstanding institutions like the University of Pittsburgh, that Chancellor Gable is privileged to lead and does an amazing job leading, have the resources you need to be able to save lives, create incredible medical breakthroughs, and put us in a position to do good in the world. I think America is at its best when we're in the future business, and the future business runs right through halls like this here at the University of Pittsburgh, and we've got to do everything in our power to be in the future business again in America, and you all are a key part of that. So thank you for welcoming me here today. Thank you for showing us the important work you're doing, and I want you to know we are going to continue to support the amazing work that you do every step of the way. And now it's my pleasure to bring up to the microphone the aforementioned Dr. Chris Connolly. And I can't stress enough how important he has been in this process to help us get here. We would not have this law passed as it was, but for his brains and his ability to speak English. So it's my pleasure to invite up Dr. Chris Connolly for a few words. Doc?
Hey, everyone. I'm a scientist, so I don't usually give speeches unless they have p-values in them, so be forewarned.
Now you're not speaking English.
No.
Right?
So I just, on behalf of the patients and families living with these neurodegenerative diseases and the scientists and clinicians that work on them every day, I want to express our deepest gratitude to Governor Shapiro, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and the legislator for realizing and recognizing the urgency of this research and for giving hope to the millions of families that are dealing with these conditions. Representative Mullins, thank you so much for spearheading this effort and for your continued advocacy for ALS patient care and research over the years. I also want to thank some other members who helped work with Representative Mullins and myself, including ALS Mid-Atlantic, Dr. Lacomas here at UPMC, Dr. Piera Passanelli and Davide Trati at Thomas Jefferson, and Zach Simmons and Daniela Zarnescu at Penn State Hershey. So I'm a scientist at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, and my lab focuses on studying ALS and dementia. And we want to understand why brain diseases happen and why neurons fail in these diseases in patients. And importantly, we're trying to figure out how we can stop this and reverse it or prevent it. ALS, Alzheimer's, FTD, Parkinson's are some of the most devastating diseases we face as a society. They affect individuals oftentimes in the prime of their lives with young families. And I suspect everyone in this room knows someone who's been afflicted with one of these conditions. And for that reason, there's a reason for it, and it's because they're becoming more common. We know that as our population ages, the risk for developing these increases. Many of these disorders lack any effective treatment, and so there's not much we can tell patients. This leaves families and caregivers with few options. And just an example, ALS cases alone are expected to rise by as much as 25% by 2040. Alzheimer's disease cases may double over the next 25 years. So how do we confront this? And the answer is that every future therapy is going to begin in a research laboratory like the ones we have here at the University of Pittsburgh, where we try to understand not only what's going wrong, but how do we fix it? In our lab, we're trying to understand some of the pathological processes that occur in the brains of patients with ALS and dementia, and not just why it happens, but how can we stop it and reverse it. But beyond our own group, we've seen tremendous encouraging work and breakthroughs in these diseases over the past few years, and we're seeing therapies emerge that would have been unheard of just 10 years ago. And so there is reason to be hopeful. Every one of these advances that we're seeing and therapies that are now coming to the clinic began in a research lab like these, where the basic research was translated. And I also want to express that these diseases exist along a spectrum. So any breakthrough we make in ALS is going to be a breakthrough in dementia and potentially in Alzheimer's and potentially in Parkinson's. And that's why the investment's not only so critical, but it's going to support not only the research, but train the next generation of scientists, clinicians, and foster collaboration across the different research groups in the Commonwealth. Our goal is simple. It's to take what we discover at the bench, take it to the clinic, and develop new therapies to improve the quality of life of patients. So on behalf of the scientists, clinicians, patients living with ALS, Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's disease, and the families afflicted by this across the Commonwealth, I want to thank Governor Shapiro, Representative Mullins, Secretary Bogan, the legislature, for recognizing that this work matters and is worth supporting. And hopefully we can come back in a couple years with some really positive news. So thank you.
Thanks, guys. It's my pleasure to bring up Dr. Deborah Bogan, again, a Pittsburgher, someone who has left her mark on this community in the healthcare space and is now leaving her mark all across the Commonwealth as our health secretary. Dr. Bogan?
Well, good afternoon. I'd like to start by thanking Governor Shapiro. Your commitment to and advocacy for improving the health of all Pennsylvanians will lead to longer and healthier lives for millions of our residents. I'd also like to thank the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine for hosting us today. As a longtime member of the faculty here and a practicing pediatrician of more than 2 decades in this community, it always feels like home when I walk onto this campus. And as Dr. Donnelly said, I'm Dr. Deb Bogan. Actually, it's the governor who introduced me. I'm Pennsylvania's Secretary of Health. We are really here today to celebrate a landmark investment. The Shapiro administration new $5 million grant program dedicated solely to advancing understanding of neurodegenerative diseases. This is more than a line item in the 25-26 budget. It's really a line in the sand against the illnesses that steal our memories, our mobility, and our loved ones. The numbers tell an urgent story. Nationally, more than 7 million Americans live with Alzheimer's, a figure projected to nearly double by 2050. And here in Pennsylvania, this public health crisis hits close to home. Over 280,000 of our neighbors aged 65 and older are currently living with Alzheimer's. This is a large city of people, each facing a devastating progressive decline. The lives of patients with neurodegenerative diseases are never the only ones forever changed. For every patient, there is a family, a son, a daughter, a spouse, who steps into the difficult role of caregiver. Across our Commonwealth, these loving caregivers provide an estimated 822 million hours of unpaid care annually. This responsibility is immense. Caregivers of people with dementia are 6 times more likely to suffer from depression and often face their own serious health issues. Their mental and physical well-being is intrinsically linked to that of their loved one, highlighting that our investment must support the entire ecosystem of care. And I know the weight of this struggle personally. I had 2 uncles who battled Parkinson's disease, including one who lived with my family when I was a child. And my sister-in-law has early onset Alzheimer's disease. And unfortunately, her Alzheimer's disease has transformed her from a vibrant, outgoing, active school teacher into someone who requires around-the-clock care. My brother, her primary caregiver, helps her with everything from dressing to eating and much more. And I've seen firsthand, like too many Pennsylvanians, the toll neurodegenerative diseases have on our loved ones and their families. That's why the Shapiro administration's $5 million investment in research grants is so vital. It's seed money for breakthroughs. Pennsylvania is a powerhouse of medical innovation, home to world-class institutions like Pitt, CMU, Duquesne, Penn State, and countless others across the Commonwealth. We have brilliant minds and the infrastructure ready to accelerate the discovery of new treatments and ultimately a cure. Happy to say that the application process for this new grant will begin early in 2026 and will prioritize high-impact collaborative research that bridges the gap between the laboratory bench and the patient's bedside. Great institutions like Pitt and others across the state will be eligible to apply. So thank you for the amazing work researchers are doing here at the University of Pittsburgh to find new treatments for those impacted by neurodegenerative diseases. I truly believe that through your work, the work of other researchers at institutions throughout Pennsylvania, we can and we will discover effective preventive strategies, treatments, and even cures for diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and ALS, and many others. We are fortunate to be able to partner with you all in these efforts. So truly it's my honor, because I also had the honor of listening to some of the conversations about the development of this grant process, to thank Kyle Mullins for his advocacy and commitment to the work that led to this $5 million investment. So it's an honor to introduce you, Rep. Come on up. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Doctor.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Bogan. Again, I'm Kyle Mullins, a state representative from the opposite corner of the state, above Scranton. And my pathway here involved a whole bunch of interstate miles, some rain and snow, that lovely Squirrel Hill Tunnel you've got here. And as the governor mentioned, a few years before that, the loss of my father to ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. Yes, we are here to announce good news. The first ever state funding of research into neurodegenerative diseases like ALS, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Huntington's. But I'm also here to say thank you. Thank you to Governor Shapiro, Secretary Bogan, and everyone in this administration for their unwavering leadership and support on this issue. Governor Shapiro was elected 14 days after my father passed away. And less than 3 months later, he had me in his office to talk about the very funding we're celebrating today. I thank my colleagues who have supported me in times of grief when fighting for this cause inevitably made me remember and miss my dad more than I could explain. And colleagues who always showed up with a yes vote each step of the way. And thank you to our world-class researchers like Dr. Donnelly, who have dedicated their lives to providing hope. Hope that we will soon unlock the cruel mysteries to these diseases. Dr. Donnelly, at the risk of sounding starstruck, I consider you and your fellow researchers as rock stars. And it was great getting a backstage pass today to your rock concert. Although you guys are experimenting with different drugs backstage than rock stars do. So many of us know what it's like when the doctor comes in and looks you or your loved one in the eye and says, you have Parkinson's disease. Or we believe it to be early onset Alzheimer's. Or I'm sorry, you have ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. So many know the pain of the battle. I know my friend and former State Senator Sean Logan, who works here at UPMC and is here with us today, is braving Parkinson's disease, as is former Governor Ed Rendell. My dear friend and colleague, Representative Lindsay Powell, watched her sweet grandmother suffer with dementia. And as the governor mentioned, back when he was state rep, Josh Shapiro, he watched his dear friend, Dr. Wes Rose, battle ALS, which inspired him to work with Representative Brian Cutler, who lost both of his parents to that cruel disease, to create the ALS Care Services Program, which is now at a $1.5 million annual appropriation in the budget. So many know the feeling of when that diagnosis is given. A timer is set. And you begin to grieve in anticipation of losing that person you love, as you watch them lose the ability to speak, to swallow, to walk, to remember your name, or to breathe. You prepare for that loss because there are no cures. We all know the feeling when you would give anything to lift that burden from them, that cross. Outside of the hope and promise that your particular faith provides for you, the only hope we have while here on earth is that some breakthrough emerges from one of our world-class institutions like this one. While so many have experienced loss, today is about hope. Hope that we're just one grant away from one clinical trial, from one breakthrough that makes these livable diseases, so that we can actually lift that burden. So that when the doctor delivers that bad news, they can also deliver the good news that we have a therapy to stop the progression, or better yet, a cure. I know we have some great research institutions across the country, but my money's on Pennsylvania. Now, I know we're in Pittsburgh Pirates country, but my dad raised me as a frustrated Yankees fan. And as the Yankee great Lou Gehrig was saying goodbye to baseball in his luckiest man on earth speech, he ended by saying, I know I may have been given a bad break, but I've got an awful lot to live for. We all have an awful lot to live for and an awful lot of work to do. Thank you all.
I want to bring up Representative Dan Frankel, our local representative, to speak on behalf of the delegation and share a few thoughts. Rep.
Thank you, Governor. I don't have prepared remarks, but I do want to thank the collaboration that's taken place here that we've seen over so many years between the university and government the researchers here who've done such remarkable work. I, like so many other Pennsylvanians, and Representative Mullins' personal experience, lost my father, his sister, my aunt, to Alzheimer's disease as well, like so many probably of you here who have experienced these types of illnesses in your families and had to deal with the work that had to be to support those individuals. This is really quite an extraordinary time. When we see the uncertainty coming out of Washington, to have the ability of the state under the leadership of Kyle Mullins and Governor Shapiro and his administration step up to help fill that gap and to help create some certainty moving forward with the investments that are so important to doing this research, but also to continue the work that we see here in the city of Pittsburgh that has created so much vibrancy, so much employment, so much dynamism in our community, and to see that be fostered at the state level in this time of great uncertainty. So I want to thank the governor in particular for his leadership here, my colleague Kyle Mullins for bringing his personal experience, translating it into great legislation, and also recognize the work that my colleague Lindsay Powell has done also with her lived experience in this area. So congratulations, thank you so much for the leadership of the governor, Representative Mullins. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rep. Thank you. Our final speaker is Dr. Shaker, who I know will offer a significant number of insights into the purpose of our conversation here today. I also want you to know he is a leader in our administration on science and research and so much more, and we're blessed to have his involvement in the work that we do with Secretary Siger and others. Dr. Shaker, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for this press conference and this great announcement. I want to particularly start by thanking the governor for leading this charge and bringing this positive news to all of us. And then, of course, to Representative Mullins and his co-sponsor, Representative Brian Cutler, for making this happen, and all of you from the legislature to support this. I think, we are very proud of our science here, and we're very grateful for the support of the state for the science. As Representative Frankel said, there are many uncertain times right now for science and the future, and actually thinking about what we can do about these unsolved problems in medicine. And while Washington news is always anxiety-provoking, we're so happy to be in Pennsylvania, where we have a strong support, not only financial support, but really a spiritual and, I would say in many ways, conceptual support for science and discovery and moving forward products and economic development through scientific discoveries. I recently co-chaired a National Academy of Medicine's panel on developing new therapies for ALS. And this had all of the national experts bringing all of their knowledge and their updates on potential for what we can do and what we have for ALS today. The most depressing part was that there's no way to actually diagnose ALS. People go through roughly 6 to 8 years of diagnostic journey before somebody actually gives them the actual diagnosis. And then once you get the diagnosis, the next thing you stare at is there's no treatment. So you have a person who is suffering from extraordinary neurological problems for years, and then they finally give them a diagnosis and say, okay, start your stopwatch now, so that you can average you're going to live for another 7 or 8 years. And of course, during that 7 or 8 years, you're going to deteriorate one step at a time. And I can feel what Representative Mullins was talking about. And that's what we're dealing with. And that's ALS. And then, I think many of you have heard stories, and every one of us have dealt with a parent or a in-law or a neighbor who has gone through Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease. And every one of us have a family member who may have a neurodegenerative disease. All of these disorders, there are no clear diagnostics, there are no clear therapies. And 90% of them are non-genetic, which means that they are essentially sporadic diseases that can happen to anyone. You don't have to have necessarily a family history or a genetic predisposition. So for us as researchers, this is an extraordinary challenge. This cannot be simply solved like, here's a bug, here's an antibiotic, let's take care of it. It's not that at all. So that's one of the challenges that this requires: a long game and a lot of funding and a lot of bright researchers and support for people like Chris. Even Chris's work, for example, is hard to sustain without big laboratories like this, without grants and without state support, because these are not simple solutions. So as the governor saw, we are actually growing people's neurons from their skin or from other cells, and then trying to understand what is wrong with those neurons for that patient, and then trying to figure out how to come up with a treatment for that. So I truly appreciate all of the support and all of the commitment that we're hearing from both our state, but also from all of you as supporters of biomedical research here at University of Pittsburgh. I believe we have an amazing system that we have built. First of all, as you heard, we're one of the leading biomedical research institutions, probably 5th or 6th in federal funding for biomedical research. We have amazing infrastructure for discovery, but we're also building pathways for translation. So, for example, we've created something called PIT Inc. that is going to be moving discoveries from Chris's lab to startup companies to developing to the next level. Then we have the BioForge, where we believe we can manufacture the next generation medicines. And then, of course, we have UPMC, a very large health system where we can actually test these in real patients. So our plan is to not just do discovery, but to take it all the way to patients, and people like Oscar Lopez, who is head of our Alzheimer's Disease Center, who does all of these clinical trials with Alzheimer's patients. We can feed his clinic with new discoveries. So that is part of our strategy, that is part of our plan. So we appreciate all of your help, and thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you. If we want the University of Pittsburgh to get some of the money, I've got to sign it into law here. So we're going to sign it, and then I'll come back and see if there's any questions from the media.
Just graduated a year ago.
bill becomes a law. We scratched off everything at the top and put the Mullins language in the back. So, there we go. I want to make sure, Dr. Connolly, where did you go? This is for you. I hope you will, you will hang this up in the research lab here and let all your great researchers know how much we appreciate that. And when Dr. Shaker goes to apply for the funding, use this pen, all right? Good job. Come on up and answer some questions. Representative Mullins is going to handle the tough questions. Anything from the media? No? Are we good? It's never happened to me before. I'm out of here then. Merry Christmas,
happen, it's great.
Happy Hanukkah, and Happy New Year, everybody. All right.